Gotta love technology. It works officially for me. Hey, y'all, welcome to Book World, The Great Escape. I'm CJ Peterson. My co-host is Mr. Michael Scott Clifton down there in the bottom. And we have a special guest today, Miss Helen Thompson, who is the head librarian for the Mount Pleasant Public Library. So thank you for coming on today, Helen.
Oh, it's good to be here.
So, Mike, how was your week? What did you do?
Uh, well, we are putting up Christmas tree ornaments and Christmas tree this week, which is always a uh, somewhat stressful exercise.
Hmm.
So we decided to do it in stages this year and to lower the stress level.
There
So
you go.
anyway, it's been a great week so far. So I got an old college friend of mine that runs I think a investment company. Anyway, ordered 25 of my books that he's going to send as gifts to clients. So
Nice.
I thought that was pretty nice.
That's great.
That is very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, Trevor and I got Christmas up. It took us all week. And then we had to refine the house afterwards. We're one of those people that we have 7 totes of Christmas stuff, and 2 of them are like gigando type totes. And so sometimes people call it Christmas vomit. Uh, we call it fun. So we have like 2 Christmas trees. We have this little Christmas village inside. We have like 12 blow ups. We have laser lights. We have candy canes that line the driveway that are lit. We have a 9 foot Christmas tree in the blow up and a 9 foot snowman in the blow
Okay. Well, you're a lot more, you're a little bit more involved than ours. That we do with getting the Christmas tree up is, uh, like I said, it's a time consuming thing. We put lights up as well, but no, we're not going to win any uh, awards. We're going to do the uh, Griswold Christmas
Yeah.
lights and
up, or the
stuff
Great
like that.
Christmas Light Fight, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, we have a Charlie Brown tree, and that's it. And it's not up yet.
Aw, some of those are the most sweet trees. When I was a catastrophe adjuster before I met Trevor, my cat and I lived in a trailer, because it was easier to take to the different sites for when storms hit. And I had this little 3 foot tree, and I love that little 3 foot tree. And it's like I still we had like stockings. He has a stocking too. So there's like little stockings hung all over, and then now we're up to 10 stockings.
Hmm.
So yeah, we've got stockings all over, including Chief and Sarge, which are children's book characters that travel with us. They even have a stocking. So it's really cute. It's one of my favorite holidays. I
Oh
love
yeah.
Christmas. Everybody is just so sweet, normally, unless you're Black Friday shopping. And everyone, you know, tries to, it's the giving season. So they do their best. And that to me is priceless. Well, we thank you for coming on today, Miss Helen. First of all, can you please introduce yourself? Tell people who you are, what you do, that sort of thing.
Well, I'm Helen Thompson. I'm the director of the Public Library in Mount Pleasant, and I know Mike because we were together at Chapel Hill for how many years, Mike?
Oh, it was
20
20
something.
years, 20
Yeah,
something
over
years.
20,
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
And he was there before there was a library.
Oh no, that's got to be a joke in there somewhere.
No, it's
Mike
not a
Yeah.
predates
joke. That was
Mike
true.
predates the library.
We had no
Yeah.
library. Then we were just a K-8 school.
Yeah.
And then we had a wonderful superintendent who wanted a librarian, a certified librarian. And so he made it happen. And then Mike was instrumental in moving us to a K-12. So he was good about pushing, let's build a high school. So they did. And now they're, I don't know what, 1,200 kids, Mike? 11 or 12?
Yeah. About
Wow,
1100. Yeah.
1,100?
nice.
From
There are
130.
Yeah, I started
Wow,
155 the first year I was there, so there's over 1,000 when I left. So yeah,
goodness.
it was
Now,
fun.
before we go on, you just mentioned something that I don't know if everybody caught. You said certified librarian. Can you explain to those who are listening, because I didn't know this until I heard it somewhere, that you guys, there's certain requirements to be a librarian, like educational level type requirements. Can you explain what those are?
Well, and to be a librarian in public school, I mean, tell you what you're supposed to have. And Texas for years was good about abiding by this because I think that someone along the way realized how important libraries were.
Hmm.
They've forgotten that now, but they
Yep.
knew it. They knew it once. But you had to be a certified librarian, meaning in Texas you had to have taught school for 4 years, and then you had to have either an MLS or you had to go back and just get a certification in library science. So that's a certified librarian. And then they went to, you had to have at least one in the district. And then they went to, oh, can you read this eye chart? You can be the librarian. So that's where we are. And it's
So,
Right.
library science, what does that entail when it comes to schools? Because again, that's something I've never heard of.
library what? Library science? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
that's
Okay.
what you initially
Well,
said.
yeah. Well, a library, that's the name of the degree. It's a
Right.
ML Master of Library Science. And that now involves a lot more technology. When I got it, it didn't have that much technology involved. You just had to learn it as you went. But we taught every kid, especially K through 8. I had every kid every week for a class. And we what we did for years was we had themes in the library. And the whole idea is trying to get children to love to read, not just to
Right.
learn to read, but to love to read. If they don't love it, then it doesn't matter if they can read or not. But I think that's how we reach so many kids. I really do. And being a certified librarian, I had the background, the children's literature and the multicultural literature and so forth with college classes and lots of contacts.
Hmm.
Those days are sadly almost gone because Mount Pleasant is a big school district. They have one certified librarian in the whole district.
Wow.
And that's
So
it.
Helen,
High school. Mhm.
so Helen, you've had a long career as a librarian. Can you uh, touch on, and you sort of mentioned that about the digital aspect of it. Can you touch on the biggest changes you've seen over the last 15, 20 years
Well,
as
yeah,
a library?
a lot of it is the digital aspect. I know when y'all are probably familiar with Overdrive,
Hmm.
or and got Libby downloaded on your phones, I hope. But when we got that, that was the big change in libraries. Is if you come in and get a card from me, I say, okay, this is corny, but follow these directions, and then you can check out all these other books because we're in with 100 other libraries, and those are ebooks and audiobooks,
Wow.
and they're free. Well, they're free to them, but to us, an ebook, you know what, Mike, you might pay $10 for an ebook, online on Amazon, but that book costs us like 85 because of the way the publisher is going to have to get some money out of it. But when we get it, then it's distributed. Like we've got thousands and thousands of people in Northeast Texas who can check out that book one at a time, but they can do that. When that happened, I thought that it would appeal to the younger people, but our statistics, and we're a small library, but we've got about 800. We check out about 800 ebooks and audiobooks online every month
Hmm.
through Libby or Overdrive. And but the age group is 50 and up that use it more, which really surprised me.
I think I know the reason for that. At the book events, a lot of the book events that I've been at, um, and I've told this to CJ as well. The people that come by and want to buy physical books, physical copies, generally are younger. And the ones that want to know if you've got them as ebooks or audible books are generally older. And for the longest time, I didn't understand why, because I would have thought it'd been the other way around. But after doing this now for about 4 or 5 years, I've heard them comment enough that when you're younger, you don't have a collection of physical books that is built up to the point you got no place to put them. But when you're older, you've you have I've had some of them tell me they've built a whole section of in a spare room for a library just to
Mm-hmm.
shelve their books, but they've run out of room. Therefore, they prefer the ebooks because they've got no place to put a physical copy of a book anymore. So they're used to using, ebooks and digital copies, Kindle, that sort of thing.
Well, the other beauty of the Kindle and stuff is you can actually bump up the font and you can make it bigger. I know when my dad,
Hmm.
before he passed, he liked them because he could do the big print, and he could, use his little fingers and make it bigger so he could actually read it. So I think that's also a part,
It
something
is.
else to consider as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm the point where I would prefer an ebook myself because the print and because you can throw 500 books in your purse,
Right.
take it with
Hmm.
you.
That's
So I
The
it.
like,
only thing you're limited by is the
Yeah.
battery.
yeah,
That's right.
right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And I know, we have a book sale every spring, and I know this last couple of years I've donated 200 books at a time from my home. And the bad news is I can't tell that any of them are gone. That's how many. And
Wow.
I think a lot of people our age, like Mike said, that we've accumulated so many books over so many years that you do run out of space.
Hmm.
Um, we had a couple who came in here a few weeks ago that had just moved here from well, actually from Hawaii, and the man said, "All right, when did this library start?" And I said, "Well, I said, one time I could have told you." I said, "But probably it was in the 1940s, and it was upstairs at a storefront. Just a group of women decided that Mount Pleasant needed a library." So his question then was, "Where are the books?" And I said, "What do you mean, where are the books?" And he said, "Where are the original books?" And I said, "Oh, they're long gone." "Well, you're a library. You're supposed to have all the books that you've ever ordered." And I said, "Look around. Where would we put them?" So,
Yeah, no.
so it's kind of strange, but we don't have room here, just like people won't have room at home to keep them forever. And of
Well,
course, in a public library and a school library, but more the public library, it depends on the circulation. We took some children's books out this last year that made me cry. But when they haven't been checked out in 5 years, they're taking up space that something else could go in that space that people
Sure.
might read.
well,
So,
and here's the other beauty. And people think of libraries are just books, but they're
um,
really not. There's a lot of cool programs that go on there, like reading for kids or, whatever other programs are around there. There's also a whole reference section. So, for example, if you're looking for a job and you're low on income, there's a library that allows you to
come
go to
in.
the internet.
I'm sorry, y'all. Just a second.
That's okay.
Hey, come in. Oh, Barbara, come in and sit down. I'm on a Zoom call. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. This is another friend coming in. Barbara, we talked together even longer ago than when I talked to you, Mike.
Wow.
Well, as we were saying, there's a lot of other benefits to a library, such as it allows you to access, the internet in case you don't have that option. It allows you to look for jobs. It allows you to do all sorts of things. So the
Right.
libraries hold a lot of value.
Yeah, the library is not a keeper of the books anymore.
Hmm.
It's a community center.
Hmm.
Because we do, like before COVID, we had a whole year of health happens in the library, and we had cooking. We had a ball. We had cooking demonstrations and all kinds of things. And we stay open late one day a week, and would do all those things. And so we're getting back to that. But since COVID, people are slower about coming back. We're not bouncing back like I hope we would. And of course, they keep coming up with a new variation, and that frightens people. And I get that.
Hmm.
But
Well, but even like the reading programs in the summer reading programs for kids is, usually great. And a lot of libraries tend to have, big type focus on that.
yes,
And I remember growing up, we would have like a movie day, I think at least once a week in the summer. That was always fun. So there's a lot of benefits to libraries and encouraging them, and parents, books galore for littles.
right.
So you don't have to read that same book over and over and over again.
Helen, I'll come back. Okay. I'll come back.
So I have a question for you that I'm sure that a lot of authors are wondering. How do they get their books into libraries?
Okay. Mike and I have had this discussion before. The surefire way is to donate it
Hmm.
and take your most popular book, donate to the library, um, offer to do a book signing. And I did want to talk to you a little bit about this. Mike, you might remember this before I went to work here. You and I guess Netwo authors were here one Saturday
Hmm.
and set up in the program room. And I thought that was a
Right.
great idea. Now, I have authors that call often and say, I want to do a book signing. And I'll say, okay, we'd love to have you, but let me give you a warning. Traditionally, you're not going to have a big turnout unless you get out and do some work because we'll advertise, but unless you do some footwork, um, people just don't come out if they don't know who you are. If you were
Hmm.
James Patterson, we'd probably get somebody to come out.
Yeah.
But
Well, Well, that's a
Well,
lot of
and
advertising falls on the authors, and a lot of times
yeah,
they
it
don't
does.
understand that.
It does. Well, we've had people like Kimberly Willis Holt. She won the National Book Award for when Zachary Beaver came to town. So she's a really famous children's author. So we had her and did all of this advertising. We decided we wouldn't be able to fit everybody in the library, so we got the room at the Civic Center. I had 12 people.
Mm.
Ooh.
Maybe one of my most embarrassing moments.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had
Ouch.
John Erickson. Mike knows who that is, Hank the Cow Dog, and we had over 500. So there's just no way to tell. But if people don't know who you are,
Mhm.
you're not going to have a big turnout unless you do the footwork.
Mhm. Definitely. Now, you mentioned that you were also a high school librarian. So one thing we talked about before getting on the show, the AR reading list. Can you share a little bit about what that is, potentially what an author could look for to try to find out how to be on it?
Okay. Mike was around when we started AR too. And actually, I think Chapel Hill was the first school district in East Texas to have an AR program. When it began, it was great. It was real incentive to read. Now, I have seen it used where you got to get these 23 points or you're not going to pass
Yeah.
this 6 weeks. And that's not teaching a child to love to read.
Well,
But
it's
it
not.
can be used and be very beneficial. When we were using it, we could make up to 500 tests, like you would do your test with CJ on your book, like you
Mhm.
said you had done in one school,
Mhm.
and we could put it on. Now, we did all 500, and I kept asking them for more. Well, AR grew and grew, and then they didn't need us to do all the tests. They wanted to sell them to you, which I understand, they're a business. Now you would have to find out, and you might check with the school district like that you're trying to get in, and ask them, say, can you still do these books on your own? Can
Mhm.
you make the tests on your own, like you said you had done,
Mhm.
and see how many, because they'll know. Now, I don't know now. That's been too many years since I've been out of that. Also, I would get hold of Accelerated Reader, email them and say, I'd like to be included on your tests. How do I do that? And see what they're willing to do.
Mhm.
Before
Awesome.
I left, we had a universal list, and almost any book at that time, of course, we're talking children's and YA, but almost any of them were on the list. And I'll admit at that time I didn't know enough about the books that were self-published or so forth, that how they got on the list, unless
Mhm.
somebody read them. But check
So,
check with your school district and see how many they are allowed to do, or if they're still allowed to do that, and then get with AR.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So, what do you look for as a librarian when you try to bring a book into the library itself?
We look for a variety. They're just because it's something I might not read doesn't mean it's something other people wouldn't read.
Mhm.
So we just try to have the widest variety of books that we can have.
And
So
I'm sure this year is like the best time of year for you all because a lot of authors have their books on sale. And it allows you guys to, as a library itself, to kind of watch the budget and watch the dollars.
yeah, yeah. Mount Pleasant is really supportive from the library, so I
Mhm.
can't complain at all about our budget. Now, but not all the cities are. Hugh Springs, for instance, um, a retired librarian began their library, and she did it all on grants, and she works 40 hours a week in that library and doesn't get paid a dime because
Mhm.
that city doesn't fund the library. So, budget's going to be different in every library. So you just need to talk to the librarian there. Like I said, donate the first one. And the truth is, if it circulates, then they'll buy the rest of your books.
So, Helen, what's trending in the library? What genres or books do you see that are popular now that people are checking out?
Fantasy has gotten more popular, and I think y'all see that, and that's what Mike, what you're writing. So, and CJ
Right.
sounds like what you're writing too, or at least
Mine's sci-fi
sci-fi.
and
Okay,
also supernatural paranormal as far as big
Yeah.
people books.
yeah, and those are trending, and
Mhm.
of course biggest the biggest trend is still the murder mysteries. We circulate those big time. Here in Mount Pleasant, Christian fiction circulates a lot.
Which
Do
is
you do,
also what mine is.
Mm.
do you see any uh, as far as the selection or popularity demographically in terms of age girls versus boys, men versus women, what they like? Is there a distinct difference?
Um, I think the murder mystery part goes across the board, men and women
Hmm.
alike.
Right.
And the Christian fiction's more is mostly women reading that. The kids fiction just there's no way to put your finger on that. Um, thank goodness we got more boys reading all the time, and you can
Hmm.
thank J.K. Rowling for that. I know when
Right.
I left Chapel Hill, we always traditionally I should say in a public school setting, your girls are going to outread the boys 2 to 1.
Oh yeah.
But I know when I left because of Harry Potter, it was the opposite. The boys
Right.
were outreading the girls, and I don't know now. Here in the public library, it's about equal. We have about as
Right.
many boys reading as girls.
It's
That's interesting.
interesting. It's interesting that a lot of the book events I go to, this has been a really good year for me, but it's pretty typical in terms of the breakdown is with fantasy and of every 3 books I sell, 2 go to girls or women. Uh, I only sell about 20 to 25% of the books to men. And um, or I don't know if that has is a function necessarily because I've noticed I know what you had said in school, it's difficult to get boys to read. Uh, but if you can ever find a series like Harry Potter that they like, you can really get the ball rolling. But it's just getting them to read, and I just think that reading is more a function. And I think it's sad because I think it points out that we have a lot of struggling readers on the boys' side as opposed to girls. But it's mostly to women that buy books, and it could be just buy books to read, period, not
Hmm.
necessarily a certain genre. Um, I had and this is something for parents, Helena, that you might want to remark about. One of the things that one of our librarians that was at Chapel Hill that followed you, um, one of the ways she encouraged particularly boys to read, people that have students and kids that have a hard time reading or don't like to read, is she would allow them to check out books and turn them right back in, maybe even the same day, if they started reading the book and they didn't like it.
Mhm.
Well, some of those kids would go through as many as 15 or 20 books in just 2 or 3 days, and it seemed to me like that was a whole lot of work, and it was like maybe they were just messing with the librarian or acting like they wanted to read. But what she told me was that she encouraged them to do that because if going back to the hook again, because the hope was they'd find a book, hopefully a series that would spark their interest, that they would start reading, that they would like it, and that would be like a snowball effect that would lead to the next book, which led to the next book and that sort of thing. And the only way she said they're going to find that book is if you allow them to look and choose as many books as they want to until they find one that they like. I mean, what do you feel about that? Do you think that's legitimate, or you think that's just a lot of work for not a lot in return?
Well, if the kids were actually reading a sentence or two and not just thinking it's another way to get out of class, I think
Right.
that's great. Yeah, we always found, or before Harry Potter, well, even during Harry Potter, with the boys, if I found, and we do all the time, we still do here, find these young men or these kids that I don't like to read, and if I hand them Gary Paulson, the Hatchet,
Hmm.
and that,
Hmm.
yeah, we just lost him. I don't know if you know that. He just died,
No, really.
yeah, about a month ago. But he always hooked them. And I don't know, this might be something y'all might want to know with your books. He and I had a discussion one time. He sat down with me at breakfast one day. I said, "Could I eat with you? This is TLA." And I said, "Oh, you bet." So we talked for 2 hours. And we talked about Hatchet first. And he said that was, his first big book. And Hatchet has sold more copies than any other children's book, across the library world, and still is one of the top books. He made $1,200.
Hmm.
That was it. That was his biggest book. But if you find the books that, it's like your librarian was telling you, you're trying to find the ones that the kids, the particular child likes, or even adult. But I always found it went a long way when you said, "Oh, wow, you got to read this book. Listen, and tell them a little bit about it." And that works here with adults. So, I'll get interested in a series, and people will come in, and it doesn't matter their age. It's like, "Oh, listen, I just read this. You got to read this book." Y'all read Louise Penny? Do you two read her? Oh my gosh! Well, here people are lined up to get her books.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the ladies out front, I discovered them when Galen had open heart surgery, my husband, last year. And there are 17 so far, and I got through 17 of them. And I came out and I told the ladies out front, I said, I'm going to have to tell you, the main character is Armand Gamache. I said, I'm having an affair with Armand Gamache. they're Canadian murder mysteries, and they're fabulous. And men and women read those. So those are some that just go all the way across. But just opening your mouth and saying, "Oh, how good this is,"
Well,
we're always talking.
I also know part of it is how you describe it. So, for example, with mine, I say that they're Christian fiction, but they're not your mama's Christian fiction. And they're like, okay, what does that mean? And you kind of explain it a little bit from there. But that little elevator pitch, keeping it small.
Yeah.
Like for the Sands of Time trilogy, the new sci-fi one that came out, it's like I tell people, it's Stranger Things minus the Mind Flayer meets X-Men. Well, kids can associate with that because they know those.
Yeah.
And if they can know it, like my sister's is The Nightmare King, and it's kind of middle grade reading. I tell people it's Red Ball meets Narnia. If you can associate something with that, they're like, okay, well that I think I can get on with that. And they're kind of like, or they're like, well, that's not really my pace. So it's kind of like you have to figure out where they're at and if they are interested in it. Because if it's not a genre they're interested in, then you're kind of wasting your time.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so, you could say, there was a couple of them where I said it was Christian fiction sci-fi, and they're like, how is that possible? Or does that even work? Or I'm not really interested in sci-fi, but when I explained the whole Stranger Things minus minus the Mind Flayer meets X-Men, they're like, okay, wait a minute, tell me more. So it's like trying to get them, if you can associate your book with something else, it's the elevator pitch, the 30 seconds. If you can get them in that first 30 seconds, then they'll be interested in it and they'll be able to
Sure.
take it and run with it. And a lot of times, sometimes books start really slow, and you gotta hook them in the first
Yes.
page, pretty much. If
Yeah.
if they can't get past that first page, there are some that I read have been very painful, and it's taken me getting past 3 chapters before it finally starts to pick up. And it's just like it's kind of like watching a series that has 7 seasons and says, okay, you got to get past the first 3, but after that, it's great. It's like, no, that's not how you get somebody to watch. It's not, you kind of got to think entertainment wise. How do you get somebody to watch a show? Well, you kind of start it off with a bang. Think, who's the one that did Transformers? Michael Bay. Think Michael Bay. He's like, his directing, when he directs, everything is big and explosive and eye catching, and you just seat of your pants type stuff. That's what you got to write when you're getting a lot of the younger ones as well. Some of the older ones you can go a little bit slower, but a lot of the younger ones you got to hook them quick.
So Helen, if someone is living in the Mount Pleasant area, what would they have to do to be able to come to the Mount Pleasant Public Library and check out a book?
Okay. Live in Titus County, and that's free then if you live in Titus County, because we're a city library, but we service the entire county. But there are ways to get around that. If you, let's say you live in Dangerfield, use that library, but ask for a text share card. And that's something to know. Y'all need to ask for a text share card. Might come by the library and ask for a text share card. We can give you a text share card. Then you can go to basically any library in Texas and get a card free.
Really?
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And that's the way it works. Other than that, we have a lot of people who don't use their local library, so they'll pay us $20 a year. And you think about it, they check out one book, they've already gotten more than $20.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's, the most it's going to cost you is $20, and if you get a text share card, it's free. Also, I tell people that they can go online and get a card with the Houston Library, and Houston apparently has way more money than we do. So the people who are interested in Libby then will have a card with Mount Pleasant, which is what the books we bought in Northeast Texas. and then they'll have a Houston card, and that's a completely different. I don't even think they're a consortium. I think Houston is just Houston. So if you're interested in ebooks, that's the way to do it. Then we have other people who are able to keep their cards. This one guy from Ohio is still able to keep his card from Ohio, so he uses Libby and the selection of books they've got up there. So they're great ways to read. We're free. Libraries are still the best deal going.
Right.
Well, we're at time, so if you have
Oh,
anything you want to say, like you have a minute, go for it.
oh no, I just enjoyed this so much and admire you guys. I really do. I think
Oh,
that's
thank you.
just I'm
Let,
keep writing.
let me make
Thank
a
you.
pitch real quick. This Thursday at in Longview, I will be part of the Longview Art Walk. I'll be at the Vera Bank. This will
Oh,
be the
good.
last public event I'll be at it this year. So
Awesome.
if you need would like to get some books for Christmas gifts and autographed copy, come by. So again, it'll be Longview Downtown Art Walk at the Vera Bank,
Now,
Awesome.
5 o'clock
can I
to 8
throw one
o'clock.
more thing in? You
Sure.
guys y'all get together and sometime in the spring, let's do a big signing here.
Oh, that would be fun.
Okay.
That would be a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
That
And
would be
we'll
super fun.
advertise, and the Friends of the Library will help and everything. So that'd be
Oh,
fun.
thank
Okay.
you.
That'd be awesome.
So in the meantime, people, please remember that we will not be on next week, and then after that point, which is what, the 22nd, Mike, we're going to be
hmm
moving to Wednesdays at 1. So we're going from Mondays at 11 to Wednesdays at 1 starting the 22nd of December. So don't miss out and don't miss that change. In the meantime, make sure to go to Mike's art. Is it Art Walk?
Longview Art Walk.
Longview Art
Longview Art
Walk.
Walk in downtown Longview. Yeah. 5 days.
If you need to find out where he's at, his website is authormichaelscottclifton.com. I also have a ton of Christmas specials going on. I want to make sure that readers all over and all ages get a little something under their tree that, will take them on a journey. So mine is C.J. Peterson Writes, CJPetersonWrites.com. And if you're in the Mount Pleasant Library or Titus County, make sure to stop by and say hi to Helen in the Mount Pleasant Library.
Please
Until
do.
then, y'all have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you on the 22nd.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.